Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. You cannot become who you were created to be while staying who you've been trained to be. If you want to transform your life, your finances, your relationships, your calling, the first step is not to show up louder, it's to disappear. That's right, disappear. I don't mean run away from life. I mean withdraw from everything that's keeping you small. Disappear from the environment that created your excuses. Disappear from the conversations that validate your victimhood. Disappear from the patterns that protect your pride and paralyze your potential. To disappear doesn't mean to physically vanish. It means to detach emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and sometimes socially from everything that is anchoring you to a lesser version of yourself. Most people think transformation is just about learning new strategies or acquiring more skills, but before you can rise, you've got to release. You have to come out from under the identity that was shaped by fear, trauma, and societal expectations. Disappearance is not an act of hiding, it's an act of healing. It's about stepping back so you can finally step into the life you were designed to live, not the one you settled for. People often feel stuck because they've become addicted to familiarity. They stay in toxic environments because it's predictable. They tolerate mediocrity in relationships because it feels safe. They accept scarcity mindsets because that's all they've ever known. But true transformation demands separation. You cannot transform in the same space that taught you limitation. You cannot renew your mind while surrounded by the same voices that confirmed your excuses. Sometimes God will remove you from a place not to punish you, but to prepare you. He'll allow things to fall apart, not because he's done with you, but because he's just getting started. When a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, it doesn't crawl in and immediately fly out. No, it disappears. It detaches. It enters a dark, quiet, hidden place where nothing looks like progress, but everything is being rebuilt. Some of you are afraid of that stage. You're afraid of obscurity. You're afraid of stepping away from the noise, the validation, the audience. But let me tell you, if you're afraid to be unseen, you'll never be able to be unshakable. You must become comfortable being invisible to the world while you become invaluable to your destiny. Disappearing is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's choosing to step away so you can rewire the way you think, heal the way you respond, and realign with who you were truly called to be. You can't do that while staying attached to everything and everyone that feeds the version of you that's stuck. Most people won't understand why you stopped texting back, why you stopped going to every gathering, why you started saying no to what you used to tolerate. But that's okay, because your purpose doesn't require permission. It requires preparation. And that preparation happens in isolation, not in applause, not in performance, in silence, in study, in stillness. See, people want transformation without tension, but tension is the tool God uses to stretch you into your next level. Disappearing is how you let go of the comfort zone and submit to the growth zone. It's how you detox from the identity you were handed by your circumstances so you can step into the identity you were given by your Creator. Every major transition in Scripture begins with a form of disappearance. Moses disappeared into the wilderness before he led a nation. Joseph disappeared into a prison before he was elevated to a palace. Jesus disappeared into the desert before he launched his ministry. So who are you to think that your next level will come while you stay fully visible, constantly available, endlessly distracted, and deeply entangled with what's familiar? You don't detach to escape life. You detach to elevate it. You stop showing up for the old cycles so you can break them. You stop explaining yourself to small-minded people so you can finally hear from God. You stop trying to be everything for everyone so you can become exactly who you were created to be. There is no real transformation without deliberate, uncomfortable, and sometimes misunderstood detachment. The life you want won't be built on the foundation of who you were. It will be built on the bold decision to disappear from what no longer serves you. Environment is not just the backdrop of your life, It's the blueprint that influences who you become. Everything you absorb from your surroundings, words, beliefs, attitudes, habits, and energy, contributes to the architecture of your identity. If you grew up around fear, lack, criticism, or limitation, chances are you internalize those things as normal. And now, even though you want to grow, those same environmental imprints are whispering in your ear, telling you what's possible, how far you can go, and what you're allowed to desire. You may think you're making your own decisions, but the truth is your environment has already written most of your default programming. If you want transformation, you must confront this fact. You can't change your life without changing your environment. The same people who tolerated your excuses won't challenge your elevation. The same spaces that supported your survival won't sustain your success. That's why people often experience self-sabotage, because they're trying to create a new outcome inside an old atmosphere. You can't fly in a room with a ceiling built from your past. You can't think like a king while living in a mindset designed for survival. It's not just about removing yourself physically, it's about upgrading what surrounds you intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and social. Every conversation you participate in is a classroom. Every voice you listen to is shaping your internal narrative. If you're surrounded by negativity, gossip, mediocrity, or complacency, those traits will start to feel familiar, and familiarity often breeds agreement. You'll start to mistake limitation for wisdom. You'll start thinking playing small is being humble. You'll start calling procrastination, all because your environment has programmed you to normalize dysfunction. That's why stepping away from old surroundings is not disloyalty, it's deliverance. You're not rejecting people, you're rejecting the patterns that are keeping you both stuck. It's hard to become a lion in a room full of sheep. It's hard to become disciplined when surrounded by distraction. It's hard to believe in abundance when everyone around you is committed to lack. Your external environment either reinforces your internal beliefs or it challenges them. If your environment never stretches your thinking, never calls you higher, never makes you uncomfortable, then you're not in a growth space. You're in a cage. And the tragedy is that most people have made peace with their prison because it feels familiar. But transformation begins the moment you choose unfamiliar freedom over comfortable captivity. People often say change starts from within, and that's true. But inner change accelerates when supported by outer change. If your goal is to build a six-figure business, surround yourself with people already doing it. If your goal is to heal emotionally, surround yourself with people committed to emotional maturity. Your environment becomes a mirror if you look into it long enough. It shows you who you are becoming. That's why stepping into new spaces is not optional. It's essential. Because when you expose yourself to new conversations, new standards, and new energy, you activate new possibilities inside of yourself. There's a reason why isolation is often the first phase of elevation. God removes you from what's familiar so he can reveal what's possible. He places you in a new environment so you can break away from old attachment. And sometimes the shift is painful because everything you know is being challenged, but that pain is productive. It's the sound of your old identity being broken so your new one can emerge. Your job is not to cling to the environment that formed your fears. Your job is to find the environment that aligns with your future. When you look around and realize your surroundings no longer inspire, elevate, or challenge you, that's not a signal to complain. It's a sign to move. Staying in a stale environment will make your vision decay. It will dilute your purpose and delay your assignment. Your next level is not just about doing more, it's about becoming more. And becoming more always requires placing yourself in a space that demands more. The environment you choose is the future you prepare for. The people you tolerate are the patterns you accept. The room you stay in is the identity you reinforce. Radical change doesn't happen in the presence of comfort, noise, or constant attention. It happens in intentional solitude. In a world obsessed with being seen, liked, and followed, choosing to withdraw is one of the most powerful countercultural moves you can make. Solitude is not loneliness. It is sacred strategy. It is a deliberate retreat from the distractions of the world so that you can confront the truth within yourself. Transformation begins where performance ends. As long as you're performing for approval, validation, or applause, you are not aligned with your authentic power. But in solitude, there is no stage, only truth, reflection, and growth. Intentional solitude is the laboratory of self-reinvention. It's where you shed the voices that trained you to play small and recalibrate your mind around what's possible. When you are constantly surrounded by people, even well-meaning ones, their opinions can become louder than your own intuition. Solitude gives you space to separate what you truly believe from what you've been conditioned to accept. It's where you stop running from your doubts and start dissecting them. It's where you face the uncomfortable parts of yourself, the fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs that you've been numbing with noise. Because the truth is, you can't heal in public what you haven't confronted in private. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs happen in silence, when you sit alone, without the distractions of your phone, your friends, or your schedule. The real questions start to rise. Who am I really? Why do I keep repeating the same cycles? What do I need to release in order to rise? These are not questions you answer in passing. These are questions that require stillness, patience, and presence. Solitude provides the emotional and spiritual space for you to reconnect with your source, your calling, and your identity, apart from your roles, your achievements, or your appearance. Radical change begins when you no longer need the crowd to confirm your calling. Many people delay transformation because they're waiting for public consensus. They want everyone to understand, support, and approve of their shift. But elevation often requires separation, and not everyone is meant to understand where you're going. Intentional solitude helps you detach from the need for agreement. It teaches you how to trust your own voice, even when it trembles. It teaches you how to move forward even when no one is clapping. That's the strength you need to carry your calling with conviction instead of codependency. In solitude, clarity comes, not all at once, but piece by piece. Your mind starts to declutter. Your heart starts to soften. Your vision starts to sharpen. You begin to see not just what you've been through, but what it taught you. You start to understand that your pain wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. You begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. That's the power of being alone on purpose. It's not isolation for the sake of disconnection. It's separation for the sake of elevation. Solitude builds inner authority. It trains you to anchor your decisions in discernment, not distraction. It teaches you to act from alignment, not approval. The more time you spend in solitude, the less anxious you become about external outcomes. You start moving from purpose instead of pressure. You start trusting your preparation instead of questioning your worth. And that shift is everything. Because when your transformation is rooted in solitude, it cannot be shaken by public opinion. When your identity is forged in stillness, it will not crumble under scrutiny. Most people don't take the time to sit alone because they're afraid of what they might hear in the silence. But the silence is where you meet yourself again. It's where you confront what's been holding you back, not so you can stay stuck in it, but so you can finally move beyond it. The more intentional your solitude, the more powerful your emergence. You begin to stop reacting and start creating. You begin to stop surviving and start leading. You begin to show up not as who the world expects, but as who you were designed to be. Self-concept is the blueprint for every choice you make, every risk you take, and every ceiling you hit. It's not what others think about you that shapes your life. It's what you secretly believe about yourself. Until you reprogram your self-concept, you will continue to live in cycles that reflect your current identity, not your true potential. You cannot outperform your own self-perception. You may try for a season, you may get bursts of motivation, but eventually your actions will default to your deepest beliefs. That's why transformation is not just about doing new things, it's about becoming a new version of yourself from the inside out. Most people are imprisoned by invisible labels they didn't even choose. Maybe it was something a parent said, maybe it was a failure in childhood, maybe it was the rejection that convinced you you're not enough. And now those moments have built a narrative in your mind. And that narrative has become your identity. It doesn't matter how talented you are, how many opportunities you get, or how many goals you write down. If your self-concept tells you that you're unworthy, you will find a way to sabotage what was meant to bless you. You'll shrink in moments where you were meant to shine. You'll settle in seasons where you were meant to soar, because your identity governs your behavior. Reprogramming your self-concept starts with awareness. You can't fix what you haven't faced. You have to get honest about the story playing in your head. The one that tells you success is for other people. The one that whispers you'll never be good enough, smart enough, disciplined enough. Those thoughts didn't originate in truth. They were downloaded through experience. And what was downloaded can be deleted and replaced. But it won't happen automatically. It happens through repetition, intention, and alignment. You have to feed your mind new data until it stops accepting the old lies as facts. You have to interrupt your default thoughts with declarations that stretch your faith instead of feeding your fear. One of the most effective ways to reshape your self-concept is to speak to yourself based on where you're going, not where you've been. Most people talk to themselves based on their past mistakes. They rehearse failure. They repeat limitations, but you must speak life to the future version of you. You must train your thoughts to serve your purpose. If you want to become confident, start speaking as if confidence is already your native language. If you want to walk in abundance, stop rehearsing the language of lack. You can't keep calling yourself broke and expect to behave like a builder. Your words are tools. Use them to build a new belief system that supports your destiny. Self-concept is also reinforced by behavior. You teach your mind who you are by what you do consistently. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're building trust in your identity. Every time you set a boundary and honor it, you're reinforcing self-worth. Every time you stretch outside your comfort zone, even when it's uncomfortable, you're proving to your subconscious that the old identity no longer has authority. This is why transformation doesn't come through perfection. It comes through persistence. You don't have to feel like the new you yet. You just have to act like it long enough for your mind to catch up with your mission. Another powerful element in reshaping your self-concept is your environment. You can't grow into a new version of yourself while being surrounded by voices that constantly echo the old one. You must be around people who speak to your future, not your fear. People who see the king or queen in you, even when you're still showing up like a servant. People who challenge your excuses and call out your excellence. Your self-concept is a reflection of the conversations you allow, the energy you absorb, and the environments you stay in. When you start reprogramming the way you see yourself, everything around you begins to shift to match that new vision. Transformation doesn't begin with what's seen, it begins with what's believed. Every lasting change starts on the inside before it ever manifests on the outside. Most people are chasing visible results without dealing with the invisible roots. They want the breakthrough in their business, their finances, their body, or their relationships, but they haven't addressed the belief systems that built their current reality. You don't get a new life by changing the fruit. You get a new life by transforming the root. Until you believe differently, you will continue to behave the same. And no amount of hustle or effort will override what your heart truly believes about what is possible for you. Spiritual transformation is the foundation of every meaningful external result. It's not enough to change your habits if your heart is still stuck in the past. It's not enough to change your schedule if your soul is still wounded. You have to do the work of reprogramming your inner world, not just adjusting your outer actions. The world teaches us to focus on metrics, strategies, and outcomes, but the deeper truth is that internal alignment always precedes external abundance. Who you believe yourself to be is the thermostat for what you allow, attract, and sustain in your life. If your internal identity is still tied to lack, you'll find a way to lose even when success shows up at your door. Belief is a force more powerful than talent. It determines whether you'll even try, how long you'll persist, and how much you'll endure. A person with strong belief and average skill will always outlast the person with exceptional skill and a weak mindset. This is why spiritual renewal is the beginning of transformation. You can't carry a new assignment with old thinking. You can't build a future from the ruins of regret. You have to be made new in your mind, in your spirit, and in your expectation. When your inner narrative changes, your decisions follow. And when your decisions shift, your results have no choice but to rise. Transformation doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from believing deeper. Most people try to force results without addressing the beliefs that sabotage them. They try to grind their way to worthiness. They try to overwork their way into acceptance. But performance does not produce peace. Identity produces peace. And identity is shaped by what you consistently believe about who you are and why you exist. If you believe you are chosen, worthy, and equipped, you will show up with boldness and clarity. If you believe you are behind, broken, or not enough, you will self-sabotage the moment things begin to grow. What you believe is the soil, and your life is the harvest. Everything you do flows from your belief system. How you treat others, how you respond to challenges, how you handle money, how you lead, how you create. It's all a reflection of what you believe about life, people, and yourself. So if you want to change your reality, you must interrogate your beliefs. Ask yourself where they came from. Did they come from truth, or did they come from revelation or from repetition? Are they grounded in faith or rooted in fear? Most people are living out beliefs they never consciously chose. They are operating off of systems inherited from broken environments, wounded mentors, and painful experiences. And unless you pause and rebuild those systems, your life will repeat old patterns with new faces. Transformation becomes sustainable when belief becomes personal. It's not enough to know something intellectually. You have to internalize it emotionally and spiritually. That means spending time renewing your mind, feeding your faith, and challenging every limiting belief that tries to speak louder than your purpose. It means surrounding yourself with people who remind you of your calling when you forget. It means choosing to believe in what's possible, even when your current circumstances suggest otherwise. Because belief isn't passive, it's powerful. It shapes your energy, your attitude, your focus, and your resilience. What you believe determines what you build, and what you build reflects what you become. Reinvention is not a one-time event. It is a continual process of alignment with your purpose and assignment. Most people think change happens in big dramatic moments. But the truth is, transformation is a result of intentional choices made over time that align with who you are becoming. You don't wake up one day as a completely new version of yourself. You wake up every day making decisions that either confirm your old identity or cultivate your new one. Reinvention is about deliberately letting go of outdated attachments, expired beliefs, and inherited limitations that no longer serve the vision you're called to manifest. There will come a time when the version of you that used to be necessary becomes the obstacle. The mindset that once helped you survive becomes the reason you can't thrive. The patterns that kept you comfortable become the chains that keep you small. Reinvention requires the courage to grieve the old you, even if that version brought you some measure of success or safety. It's easy to hold on to the familiar because it feels certain, even when it's keeping you stuck. But purpose doesn't live in certainty. It lives in movement. If you're unwilling to evolve, you forfeit access to everything that's waiting for the next version of you. The process of reinvention starts with a decision to refuse to live on autopilot, a decision to break agreement with mediocrity, a decision to no longer allow the past to narrate the future. Reinvention is not about pretending to be someone else. It's about uncovering who you've always been beneath the fear, beneath the conditioning, beneath the expectations that were never yours to carry. It's a spiritual process of shedding what the world gave you so you can walk boldly in what God gave you. You don't reinvent yourself by adding more. You do it by removing what's false. Reinvention will cost you something. It will cost you your comfort. It will cost you some relationships. It will cost you the approval of people who only knew how to love the version of you that was convenient for them. But everything you lose in the process of reinvention is nothing compared to what you gain: clarity, authenticity, power, alignment, peace. Reinvention makes you magnetic because it pulls your actions, your words, your decisions, and your energy into sync. People begin to feel your certainty before you even speak. Doors begin to open not because you chase them, but because you became the version of yourself who naturally attracts them. You cannot reinvent yourself with language that's tied to the old you. The words you use about your life, your purpose, your potential, those are tools of creation. If you're speaking from a place of defeat, you're building a life that mirrors defeat. If you're speaking from a place of victory, you're building a life that aligns with your assignment. Your reinvention starts in your language. You must stop rehearsing the old narrative. You must begin declaring what's true, not just based on what you see, but based on what you believe. Because your identity isn't formed by what happened. It's formed by what you decide to believe about what happened. Reinvention requires discipline. You must become the guardian of your future. You must protect your mind from distractions, your time from energy thieves, and your vision from compromise. Discipline is not punishment, it is preservation. It is the act of honoring the version of you that is still under construction by refusing to sabotage your progress for short-term comfort. When you're reinventing yourself, you have to be okay with looking different, thinking differently, and walking alone for a while. Most people won't recognize you, not because you're fake, but because you're free. And freedom looks unfamiliar to people who are still committed to their cages. Reinvention is your responsibility. No one can do it for you. No mentor, no program, no amount of motivation will take the place of your personal commitment to grow, to evolve, to stretch, to build. You were never called to stay the same. You were called to move from glory to glory, from level to level, from assignment to assignment. Reinvention is the bridge between who you've been and who you're becoming. It's the sacred space where your potential meets your discipline, your calling meets your character, and your vision meets your voice. The decision to disappear and transform is not about running away from life. It's about retreating long enough to reclaim who you truly are. In a world that rewards performance and visibility, true transformation begins in the unseen, in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your habits, in your solitude. You disappear from the patterns that no longer serve you, from the environments that dilute you, from the identities that confine you, not to escape, but to evolve. And when you return, you don't come back as the version of you that the world expected. You come back as the version of you that was always possible. A version shaped by conviction, not convenience. By design, not default. Because when you've done the deep work, you no longer need to announce your arrival. The evidence of your transformation speaks for itself.